everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com, back again with yet more wrestling news. We have news from all over the place today. It's been a bit of a crammed news day. Check out Tom's video, which is already up on the channel, but this is our second installment of important and lovely wrestling news. So without any further ado, let's take a look at those headlines. First of all, WWE could be preparing for a massive title change at SummerSlam. Next up, a top star of the independent wrestling world has confirmed that he was in talks with WWE. And finally, YouTube extraordinaire Logan Paul has challenged influencers to a wrestling match, only for pro wrestlers to reply to him. So first of all, let's talk about SummerSlam and this potentially huge title change that WWE are said to be considering. This comes courtesy of WrestlingNews.co. They have suggested that WWE are giving strong consideration to the idea of having Randy Orton beat Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship at SummerSlam. Drew, of course, won the title from Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania and hasn't yet, unfortunately, been able to present himself as champion in front of an actual crowd of wrestling fans. Now, you might be thinking, well, that's really unfair. Why would they take the belt from Drew before he's even had a chance to be a proper champion in front of an actual arena of fans? But that very reason seems to be central to this idea of WWE's, according to the source of WrestlingNews.co. They say that the idea would be potentially for Randy Orton to beat Drew McIntyre at SummerSlam so that Drew could win the title in a rematch at the Royal Rumble or at WrestleMania 37, when hopefully there would be an arena of fans back to cheer his title win. So yes, apparently there is still consideration being given to the idea of Randy Orton winning the belt at SummerSlam, which is a decision that I think would be initially very unpopular online, and then maybe if it would lead to this rematch, then people could potentially get behind it a little bit more. Also, of course, I guess you have to consider ratings. You know, it's no secret that Raw are doing quite badly at the moment, and if the belt was on Randy Orton, one of the biggest names in WWE, despite being a bit older than much of the roster, that makes sense. That's logical, isn't it? Big star as the champion, potentially leading to a growth in ratings. And apparently also, WrestlingNews.co were talking about whether this would make sense or not now that Randy Orton has turned his back on the Nature Boy Ric Flair, punting him in the head on this week's Raw. But then Brian Alvarez of the Wrestling Observer Radio has come up with a theory as to how this could still be achieved without having Randy Orton cleanly defeat Drew McIntyre. He could still do it in sneaky, heelish fashion. Alvarez is suggesting that Orton's betrayal of Ric Flair was nothing more than a fake. Obviously, the lights went off, everyone assumed it was part of this new faction that are messing with the production in WWE at the minute, and it just so happened at the moment where Orton was about to punt kick Ric Flair, and it was a nice out of kayfabe way to work around the fact that Flair cannot get physical. But then Alvarez pointed out that when Orton punted Christian a little while ago, Christian also couldn't get physical really, but they got around that by using special effects and special camera angles and stuff, all the benefits of taping the show rather than having it live, so that Christian was kept safe and didn't have to get too physically involved. Alvarez is saying there, why didn't they just do the same thing with Ric Flair? That could surely have made sense as well. Well, Alvarez reckons that it could all just be part of Randy Orton's plan. He could have been the one to rig the lights to go out at the precise moment that he kicked Ric Flair. He never actually kicked him, and then I guess Ric Flair will help Randy Orton potentially defeat Drew McIntyre at SummerSlam, and nobody will see it coming because Flair obviously seems to have broken away from Randy Orton. I've just thought there, I hope that Drew's watching this video so he can prepare for that eventuality. Come on, Drew, keep that belt, please, mate. So it's very interesting stuff. Obviously, none of that is confirmed yet. It's just a potential idea that WWE is said to have at the minute, having Randy Orton win the belt so that Drew can win it back, hopefully in front of an arena of fans. Next up, let's talk about that top independent wrestling star who has revealed that he was indeed in talks with WWE. This comes courtesy of Fightful. Actually, it was on Fightful Select, which you have to subscribe to, and we heartily recommend that because Fightful are really good at delivering the news, and Sean Ross Sapp is an excellent wrestling journalist. Shout out to you, Sean Ross Sapp, you big bloody tall man. I hate him. And the star in question is none other than Jeff Cobb. Now, we've recently seen him appear under the New Japan banner. He's wrestled for New Japan several times over the past few years, but also we saw him, of course, crop up very briefly in AEW as the Inner Circle's kind of bounty hunter who was meant to take out Jon Moxley. And Cobb has revealed that WWE actually made contact with him when he wasn't signed anywhere, but also revealed that he is now signed somewhere and is just waiting for an announcement from that company to make things official. I can only assume that the delay is due to the ongoing pandemic. But yeah, apparently WWE were indeed interested in reaching out to Jeff Cobb. Unless WWE is somehow the company that he's signed with, then that negotiation didn't appear to be successful. I would hazard a guess and say that this promotion that Jeff Cobb is talking about is New Japan, because that's where he's appeared most recently. He also said that AEW had made him contract offers during that time when he was part of the Jericho-Moxley storyline, and also said that Impact Wrestling did not approach him with a contract. So very interesting stuff there. I'll be honest, when Jeff Cobb was on the rise in the independent scene and was just making waves everywhere, I thought he was absolutely destined for NXT. That never came to fruition. It appears as though he is potentially much happier in New Japan Pro Wrestling, especially if he turned down an offer from AEW as well. It's very interesting stuff, and fair play to Jeff Cobb for, getting his name out there and being good enough to attract attention from pretty much all of the major promotions. Where do you think Jeff Cobb will end up? Where do you think he's sort of signed for and is waiting for this announcement? I think it's New Japan, but if you think anything else, if you've got some info that we don't, just drop it down there in the comment section below. Expose yourself as a bit of a stooge in the wrestling news business. But no, seriously, well done to Jeff Cobb. I hope that he's very happy wherever he goes. What a wholesome end to that segment that was. And speaking of New Japan, actually, various former WWE superstars have been announced for their upcoming event on Friday. Not New Japan in Japan, but New Japan of America. They're running several shows under that banner as a kind of a workaround for the whole travel issues, I suppose. So yeah, several former WWE superstars have been announced for matches on this Friday's New Japan of America show. For example, there's a 6-man tag featuring the team of TJP, formerly known of course as TJ Perkins, the winner of the Cruiserweight Classic, ACH, formerly known as Jordan Miles in NXT, and Alex Zane as well, not formerly of WWE as far as I'm aware, facing PJ Black, the former Justin Gabriel of Nexus, Mysterioso, and Blake Christian. ACH has wrestled with New Japan before, but this will be the first time he's wrestled under the company's name since working Lions Break Project 1 in 2018. And also on the show, we'll see the 2 semi-final matches of the New Japan Cup USA tournament. Those semi-finals are Kenta taking on the man we've just talked about, Jeff Cobb, and David Finlay taking on my absolute boy, Tama Tonga. The winner of those 2 matches will face each other in the final on August 21st. But unfortunately, New Japan also announced an injury, stating that a certain wrestler will not be taking part in the future New Japan of America shows because Alex Coughlin has unfortunately suffered a neck injury and will be out for the foreseeable future. Obviously, we wish him a full and speedy recovery. So, intriguing scenes there, and I just want to wholeheartedly throw my support behind the bad boy Tama Tonga. Bring that New Japan USA Cup home, Tama. Come on, do it. Do it for the Bullet Club and all that. Oh, I really hope he wins, but, Jeff Cobb's in the bracket as well, and Kenta. Next up, let's delve into the murky waters of the intergender wrestling debate, because a WWE Hall of Famer has suggested that he is against the idea of intergender wrestling and wants it abolished. First of all, Lance Storm recently spoke out and said that he does not think that intergender wrestling should be a thing, they should abolish it, and now on his own radio show, Booker T has agreed with the Canadian. Booker said Lance Storm made a quote that they should abolish intergender wrestling. He got a lot of heat on social media because he said it. I second his emotion as far as definitely abolishing intergender wrestling. Booker is not mincing his words here by the sounds of it. He goes on to say, I don't think it does a whole lot for female wrestlers. I personally would disagree, but there we go. If it is to ever be done on an independent level, for women to be able to get a little more training because there are less women out there working at the top level or better level that can get a lot of practice in working with guys. But as far as intergender wrestling ever making it to the big stage in pro wrestling, I think it would screw everything up. Booker there is presumably forgetting the match, and I know it wasn't strictly an intergender match, it was like a mixed tag match, but the match between Kurt Angle, Ronda Rousey, Triple H and Stephanie at WrestleMania, when one of the most electrifying parts of that whole match was when Ronda Rousey absolutely took it to Triple H. Booker goes on to say, I've stated my opinion on men wrestling women earlier this year with Tessa Blanchard. I didn't agree with that, even though I agree with Tessa Blanchard's talent. I didn't agree with the company's decision when Tessa won the Impact World Championship. And I just want to say, Lance Storm, I agree with you 100% as far as this goes. Booker T there, not holding back on his opinions on intergender wrestling. However, on the other side of the coin, a current WWE superstar seems to be fully in favor of intergender wrestling and has actually said on Twitter that he wants a specific intergender match, because somebody asked Dolph Ziggler, who would you pick to fight at the next WrestleMania as your dream match? And Ziggler simply replied, Ronda. And finally, let's talk about Logan Paul. He's basically me, but a million times bigger and more successful. But he's basically me. I never did that thing in the Japanese forest though. But no, Logan Paul has tweeted, causing a bit of a stir in the pro wrestling community, right? Because whenever somebody bigger or more famous than the wrestling industry as a whole tweets, or more relevant, I guess, in today's zeitgeist, whenever somebody of that stature tweets about wrestling, everything goes crazy, doesn't it? You know, whenever somebody tweets slagging off wrestling, whenever some celebrity says pro wrestling's fake and stupid, the entire wrestling community on Twitter seems to just jump on them. That's not what's happened here, and I feel like there may have been a bit of a misconception. Because Logan Paul tweeted saying he would give $10,000 to any influencer who could beat him in a wrestling match. And that obviously got me really excited because I am a two-time former DDT Ironman heavy metalweight champion. However, Logan Paul, I think, probably meant amateur wrestling, because I'm sure I've heard somewhere that he was a bit of an amateur wrestler himself in high school. However, just the fact that Logan Paul mentioned the word wrestling in a tweet prompted a reply to his challenge from various different, well, he specified influencers, but several pro wrestlers have replied. So let's just run through the replies right now. One of them is absolutely astounding. The people who replied to Logan Paul: Matt Riddle just tweeted, bro. Elijah Burke tweeted that he'd put $15,000 against his $10,000 in wrestling or boxing. Joey Janela tweeted, our team will also put up 10K. Iron Sheik tweeted, I can't repeat that one because it's not very PG. And New Jack tweeted, this is my favorite one, bloody New Jack tweeted saying, I'll kill this mother effer. So there we go. And in a world when Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. are going to box each other in the modern day, then I think we shouldn't put it beyond the realms of possibility that we could indeed see Logan Paul take on New Jack in a wrestling match. No, that one's a little bit too far-fetched, I think, even for 2020. But, you know, maybe I'll hit the gym and face Logan, you know. Maybe I'll propel my YouTube career. I'll say goodbye to this place. I won't be a cultaholic anymore if I secure a fight against Logan Paul. I'll be living in LA in a bloody mansion, doing tiki-talkies and all that sort of thing. It's going to be sick. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this news video. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Stay safe out there, stay positive, and I'll see you very soon.